Dan Marino. When people think of the greatest NFL players never to win a Super Bowl, the first name that usually comes to mind is Dan Marino. Drafted by the Miami Dolphins in 1983, Marino immediately redefined what was possible for a quarterback. In just his second season, he threw for an unprecedented 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns, records that stood for decades, and led Miami to Super Bowl 19. At the time, it seemed inevitable that Marino would play in many more Super Bowls and eventually win one. His lightning-quick release, fearless downfield passing, and chemistry with receivers like Mark Clayton and Mark Duper made the Dolphins one of the league's most explosive teams. Marino was named the 1984 NFL MVP and went on to make 9 Pro Bowls across a 17-year career. But after that lone Super Bowl appearance, Marino never got back. Despite his brilliance, Miami's defenses and running games often fell short, and the team could never quite put together the complete roster needed to get him over the top. Marino retired after the 1999 season with 61,361 passing yards and 420 touchdowns, both NFL records at the time, but with no championship ring. Fran Tarkenton. Drafted in 1961 by the Minnesota Vikings, Tarkenton immediately made a name for himself as one of the league's most unique players. Long before scrambling quarterbacks became common, Tarkenton was improvising outside the pocket, dodging defenders, and extending plays with his legs. Across an incredible 18-year career, Tarkenton played 13 seasons with the Vikings and 5 with the New York Giants. He became the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards, 47,003, and touchdowns, 342 by the time he retired. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler, a league MVP in 1975, and one of the faces of the NFL during the 1970s. But for all his success, the Super Bowl eluded him. Tarkenton led the Vikings to 3 Super Bowl appearances in 1973, 1974, and 1976, but each ended in disappointment. Minnesota's defenses and running game often carried them deep into the postseason, but when faced with NFL powerhouses like the Dolphins, Steelers, and Raiders, the Vikings came up short. Tarkenton's teams scored a combined 27 points across those 3 Super Bowls. He retired in 1978 as the NFL's most prolific passer. Warren Moon. Warren Moon's path to NFL greatness is unlike any other, and his story is as much about perseverance as it is about talent. After going undrafted in 1978, despite a standout career at the University of Washington, Moon wasn't given a fair chance in the NFL as a black quarterback in an era when teams still held biases against players at the position. Instead, he went north to the Canadian Football League, where he carved out an incredible legacy with the Edmonton Eskimos. Moon led Edmonton to 5 straight Grey Cup championships from 1978 to 1982, establishing himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the world. His rocket arm, deep ball accuracy, and leadership left no doubt he belonged in the NFL. Finally, in 1984, he got his chance when the Houston Oilers signed him. Over the next 17 NFL seasons, Moon became one of the most prolific passers the league had ever seen. He threw for more than 49,000 yards and 291 touchdowns in the NFL alone, earning 9 Pro Bowl selections and leading the league in passing yards twice. When combined with his CFL numbers, Moon finished his professional career with over 70,000 passing yards, a staggering total that places him among the most productive quarterbacks of all time. But despite his brilliance, Moon never reached a Super Bowl. His Oilers teams made the playoffs 7 straight years, but could never break through, often undone by turnovers, defensive lapses, or the loaded competition of the AFC in the late 1980s and early 90s. The most painful example came in the 1992 playoffs, when Houston blew a 35-3 lead to the Buffalo Bills in the largest comeback in NFL history. Moon was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2006, becoming the first black quarterback to be enshrined. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like for the algorithm. Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers is one of the most consistent and productive quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen, but despite his brilliance, he never reached a Super Bowl. Drafted in 2004 by the New York Giants and then traded to the San Diego Chargers in a blockbuster deal involving Eli Manning. Rivers quickly became the face of the Chargers franchise. Over a 17-year career, Rivers was the model of durability and toughness. He started 240 consecutive games, the second longest streak by a quarterback in NFL history, and he did so without missing time, even when battling serious injuries. Known for his fiery competitiveness and unique sidearm throwing motion, Rivers put up massive numbers, more than 63,000 passing yards and 421 touchdowns, which both rank among the top 10 all time. He was selected to 8 Pro Bowls and consistently carried the Chargers offense. Despite all of that success, the big game moments never broke his way. Rivers led the Chargers to 6 playoff appearances, including the 2007 AFC Championship game. In that game, he famously played through a torn ACL, gutting it out on one leg in a losing effort against Tom Brady's Patriots. That was the closest he ever came to the Super Bowl. After that, postseason heartbreak became a theme. Blown leads, missed opportunities, and running into dynasties like the Patriots and Steelers all blocked Rivers' path. Later in his career, he joined the Indianapolis Colts for one season in 2020, leading them to the playoffs again, but once more fell short. He retired in 2021. Jim Kelly. Few players in NFL history symbolize both greatness and heartbreak like Jim Kelly. Drafted in 1983, Kelly initially chose the USFL over the NFL, starring for the Houston Gamblers before joining the Buffalo Bills in 1986. When he arrived, Buffalo transformed almost overnight into one of the league's most dangerous teams. Kelly became the leader of the famed K-Gun offense, a fast-paced, no-huddle attack that kept defenses off balance and maximized the skills of Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, and James Lofton. With Kelly at the helm, the Bills dominated the AFC in the early 1990s, reaching an unprecedented 4 straight Super Bowls from 1990 to 1993. But those appearances became both Kelly's greatest accomplishment and his most painful legacy. Buffalo lost all 4 games, beginning with the infamous wide right in Super Bowl 25, when kicker Scott Norwood missed a potential game-winning field goal. The following years brought even more heartbreak, a blowout loss to Washington, then back-to-back defeats at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. Kelly retired after the 1996 season with more than 35,000 passing yards and 237 touchdowns. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and the face of the most successful era in Bills history. Barry Sanders. When the conversation turns to the greatest NFL players of all time, not just running backs, Barry Sanders is always mentioned. Drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1989 after a record-breaking Heisman season at Oklahoma State, Sanders instantly became one of the most electrifying players the league had ever seen. At just 5 feet 8 inches and 200 pounds, Sanders didn't look like a typical NFL superstar. But once he touched the ball, he was magic. His unmatched vision, agility, and ability to stop and start on a dime turned defenders into highlight reel victims every Sunday. Over 10 seasons, Sanders rushed for 15,269 yards, 99 touchdowns, and averaged an incredible 5.0 yards per carry. He went to the Pro Bowl in every single season of his career, and won the NFL MVP in 1997 when he rushed for 2,053 yards. Despite his brilliance, Sanders' team rarely gave him the support he deserved. The Lions made the playoffs 5 times during his career, but only won a single postseason game. Surrounded by weak rosters, inconsistent quarterbacks, and poor organizational leadership, Sanders carried Detroit, but it was never enough to reach a Super Bowl. In 1999, at just 30 years old, Sanders shocked the football world by retiring abruptly, still at the peak of his abilities and just 1,457 yards shy of breaking Walter Payton's all-time rushing record. Fans were stunned, but Sanders later explained that he had grown weary of playing for a franchise that wasn't committed to winning. LaDainian Tomlinson. Few players have ever dominated the NFL the way LaDainian Tomlinson did in his prime. Drafted 5th overall in 2001 by the San Diego Chargers, LT combined speed, power, vision, and versatility to become one of the most complete running backs in football history. Tomlinson wasted no time making an impact. Across 11 seasons, he rushed for 13,684 yards, 145 touchdowns, and added another 4,772 receiving yards with 17 touchdowns through the air. His ability to contribute as both a runner and receiver made him the prototype for the modern all-purpose back. He went to 5 Pro Bowls, earned 3 All-Pro selections, and is a member of the NFL's 2000 All-Decade Team. His greatest season came in 2006, when Tomlinson had arguably the most dominant year ever by a running back. He rushed for 1,815 yards, scored an NFL record 31 total touchdowns, and won the league MVP award. The Chargers went 14-2 that year, giving fans hope that LT would finally get his shot at a Super Bowl. But in the playoffs, San Diego fell in heartbreaking fashion to Tom Brady and the Patriots, and the closest Tomlinson would come to the big game was an AFC Championship loss in 2007. In 2017, Tomlinson was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Earl Campbell is remembered as one of the most punishing running backs to ever play the game, a player whose style defined toughness in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Drafted first overall by the Houston Oilers in 1978, Campbell was an instant force. In his rookie year, he rushed for 1,450 yards and 13 touchdowns, winning both Rookie of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year. He wasn't just good, he was dominant from the moment he stepped onto the field. Campbell's running style was pure power. At 5 feet 11 inches and 232 pounds, he combined size and speed in a way that defenders simply weren't prepared for. Tackling Campbell was like trying to stop a freight train, and his highlight runs often showed him bulldozing entire defenses. He won the NFL rushing title 3 straight years, 1978 to 1980, was a 3-time Offensive Player of the Year, and earned 5 Pro Bowl selections. Despite his individual brilliance, Campbell never reached the Super Bowl. His Oilers teams came close, reaching consecutive AFC championship games in 1978 and 1979, but both times they were defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty. Injuries also began to take their toll on Campbell as his physical running style wore down his body, cutting short his peak years. By the time he retired in 1985, Campbell had rushed for over 9,400 yards and 74 touchdowns. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1991, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest running backs in history. Adrian Peterson is often described as the last great workhorse running back, a player whose combination of size, speed, and sheer determination made him one of the most dominant rushers in NFL history. Drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in 2007, Peterson wasted no time making an impact, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year after rushing for 1,341 yards and 12 touchdowns in his debut season. From the start, Peterson built a reputation for highlight reel runs and unbelievable power. At 6 feet 1 inch and 220 pounds, he could bulldoze defenders, but also had breakaway speed, making him nearly impossible to stop. Over his 14-year career, he amassed 14,918 rushing yards and 120 rushing touchdowns, ranking among the top backs in NFL history. His crowning achievement came in 2012 when he returned from a torn ACL and MCL suffered the year before to rush for 2,097 yards, the second most in a single season in league history. He fell just 9 yards short of Eric Dickerson's all-time record. That year, Peterson won the NFL MVP award, becoming the last non-quarterback to claim the honor. But, despite all of his accomplishments, Peterson never reached a Super Bowl. He played in just 8 playoff games across his career, going 3-5 in those contests. His playoff highlight was a 2009 NFC Championship run, but the Vikings fell to the Saints in overtime, 1 step short of the Super Bowl. Eric Dickerson is one of the most iconic running backs in NFL history, known for his upright running style, trademark goggles, and record-breaking production. Drafted 2nd overall by the Los Angeles Rams in 1983, Dickerson made an immediate impact, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year after rushing for 1,808 yards and 18 touchdowns, one of the best rookie seasons ever. But he wasn't done. In just his second season, 1984, Dickerson set the NFL's single-season rushing record with 2,105 yards. That mark still stands today, nearly 40 years later, a testament to his blend of speed, vision, and power. Over the course of his Hall of Fame career, Dickerson amassed 13,259 rushing yards and 90 touchdowns, earning 6 Pro Bowl nods and 5 first-team All-Pro selections. Despite his personal dominance, team success never followed. Dickerson's Rams reached the NFC Championship in 1985, but they were shut out 24-0 by the Chicago Bears' legendary defense. After being traded to the Indianapolis Colts in 1987, he continued to put up huge numbers, even leading the league in rushing twice more. But his teams never made it to the Super Bowl. O.J. Simpson. Before his name became synonymous with controversy outside of football, O.J. Simpson was one of the most dominant running backs in NFL history. Drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills in 1969 out of USC, Simpson entered the league with sky-high expectations and quickly became the face of the franchise. Nicknamed the Juice, Simpson was a rare blend of power and track star speed. He was the first player in NFL history to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season, accomplishing the feat in 1973 with 2,003 yards. And remarkably, he did it in just 14 games. That record-setting season helped earn him the NFL MVP, and his electrifying style made him one of the most popular players of the decade. Over his 11-year career, Simpson rushed for 11,236 yards and 61 touchdowns, earning 6 Pro Bowl selections and 5 first-team All-Pro honors. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1985, remembered on the field for redefining what a running back could do and putting the Buffalo Bills on the NFL map. But despite his individual brilliance, Simpson never played in a Super Bowl. The Bills of the 1970s often lacked the supporting cast to contend, making just one playoff appearance during his time in Buffalo: Randy Moss. When it comes to pure talent at wide receiver, few names in NFL history carry the same weight as Randy Moss. Drafted in the first round of the 1998 NFL Draft by the Minnesota Vikings, Moss immediately proved why many called him a once-in-a-generation athlete. In his rookie season, he caught 17 touchdown passes, an NFL rookie record, and helped Minnesota's offense become one of the most explosive units the league had ever seen. Moss was the ultimate deep threat. At 6 feet 4 inches with world-class speed and leaping ability, he could stretch defenses in ways no one had before. He went on to record 156 receiving touchdowns, the second most in NFL history, and over 15,000 receiving yards. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and a member of both the NFL's 2000 All-Decade Team and the NFL's 100th anniversary team. Despite his dominance, Moss never won a Super Bowl. His best chance came in 2007 with the New England Patriots. That season, he caught 23 touchdown passes, still the single-season record for receivers, as the Patriots went 16-0 in the regular season. But in Super Bowl 42, New England was stunned by the New York Giants, who ended their perfect season with a 17-14 upset, leaving Moss still without a ring. Moss also appeared in Super Bowl 47 with the San Francisco 49ers, but once again fell short, this time losing to the Baltimore Ravens. Larry Fitzgerald. Few players in NFL history have combined talent, loyalty, and class the way Larry Fitzgerald did. Drafted 3rd overall by the Arizona Cardinals in 2004, Fitzgerald quickly established himself as one of the league's most complete wide receivers. Known for his impeccable hands, crisp route running, and quiet leadership, he became the face of the Cardinals franchise for over 15 years. Fitzgerald's career numbers are staggering. He retired with 1,432 receptions, 17,492 receiving yards, and 121 touchdowns, ranking second all-time in both catches and yards, trailing only Jerry Rice. He was an 11-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro in 2008, and was named to the NFL's 100th anniversary team. But his greatness wasn't just about stats. it was about reliability. Fitzgerald famously dropped only 29 passes on more than 2,300 targets in his career, a level of consistency almost unmatched in league history. His most iconic moment came during the 2008 postseason. Fitzgerald put together one of the greatest playoff runs ever, catching 30 passes for 546 yards and 7 touchdowns in 4 games. In Super Bowl 43, he gave the Cardinals the lead late in the fourth quarter with a 64-yard touchdown catch, sprinting past the Steelers' defense in a play that looked like it might deliver Arizona its first championship. But Pittsburgh answered with Santonio Holmes' legendary toe-tap touchdown, and the Cardinals' dream ended in heartbreak. Despite years of individual brilliance, Fitzgerald never won a Super Bowl. The Cardinals reached the NFC Championship again in 2015, but fell to Carolina, and Fitzgerald never got another shot at the big game. Calvin Johnson. Known to the world as Megatron, Calvin Johnson was one of the most unstoppable wide receivers to ever play the game. Drafted second overall by the Detroit Lions in 2007, Johnson was a 6'5", 237-pound freak of nature with 4.3 speed and unmatched leaping ability. From the moment he stepped onto the field, he was a mismatch against any defender. Too big for corners, too fast for safeties, and too strong for anyone to jam at the line. Over just 9 seasons, Johnson put together a Hall of Fame career. He finished with 731 receptions, 11,619 yards, and 83 touchdowns. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and became the face of the Lions during a turbulent era. In 2012, he broke Jerry Rice's single-season receiving record with 1,964 yards, a mark that still stands today. That same year, he posted 8 straight 100-yard games, another NFL record. Despite his brilliance, Johnson never came close to a Super Bowl. The Lions were plagued by instability and mismanagement throughout his career, making the playoffs only twice with him on the roster, losing both games. For all his dominance, Detroit could never build a contender around him, and Johnson often shouldered the weight of carrying an entire offense by himself. Frustrated by years of losing and battling through constant injuries, Johnson retired in 2016 at just 30 years old, stunning fans much like Barry Sanders had a generation earlier. Even with the shortened career, his impact was undeniable. Johnson was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2021 on his first ballot. Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson was one of the most complete wide receivers of his era, combining size, speed, and consistency to dominate defenses for over a decade. Drafted 3rd overall by the Houston Texans in 2003, he immediately became the face of a young franchise. At 6 feet 3 inches and 230 pounds with sprinter's speed, Johnson was nearly impossible to cover one-on-one. Over 14 seasons, Johnson put up huge numbers despite often playing with inconsistent quarterback play. He finished his career with 1,062 receptions, 14,185 yards, and 70 touchdowns, earning 7 Pro Bowl selections and 2 first-team All-Pro honors. From 2006 to 2013, he was one of the most dominant receivers in football, with back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons in 2008 and 2009 that cemented his reputation as a nightmare for opposing secondaries. What makes Johnson's resume even more impressive is how he produced despite playing most of his prime years in relative obscurity with the Texans. For much of his career, Houston struggled to find stability at quarterback, cycling through names like David Carr, Matt Schaub, and Case Keenum. Johnson was often double-teamed, but still managed to put up Hall of Fame-level production year after year. The biggest missing piece, of course, was a Super Bowl. Johnson made only 4 playoff appearances, all with Houston, and never advanced past the divisional round. Terrell Owens, better known as T.O., was one of the most electrifying and controversial wide receivers in NFL history. Drafted in the 3rd round by the San Francisco 49ers in 1996, Owens rose from small school obscurity, UT Chattanooga, to become a superstar. His combination of size, speed, and strength made him nearly unguardable, and his flair for the dramatic kept him in the spotlight. Owens finished his career with 1,078 receptions, 15,934 yards, and 153 touchdowns, ranking among the top 3 in nearly every major receiving category. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, and was named to the NFL's 2000 All-Decade team. He is widely considered one of the top 5 wide receivers of all time. The peak of Owens' career came during the 2004 season with the Philadelphia Eagles. After breaking his leg late in the year, Owens returned in time for Super Bowl 39 against the New England Patriots. Incredibly, despite still being injured, he delivered one of the most heroic performances in Super Bowl history, catching 9 passes for 122 yards. But the Eagles fell short, losing 24-21, and it would be the closest Owens ever came to a championship. Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez is universally regarded as the greatest tight end in NFL history, but for all of his dominance, he never won a Super Bowl. Drafted in the first round by the Kansas City Chiefs in 1997, Gonzalez spent 17 years redefining the position with his consistency, athleticism, and longevity. By the time he retired, Gonzalez had caught 1,325 passes for 15,127 yards and 111 touchdowns. At the time, he ranked second in career receptions among all players, not just tight ends, behind only Jerry Rice. He was a 14-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, and a member of both the NFL's 2000 All-Decade team and the NFL's 100th anniversary team. What made Gonzalez so unique was how complete he was. He could block, he could run routes like a wide receiver, and he had some of the surest hands in the sport. He was especially dangerous in the red zone, where his size and athleticism made him nearly impossible to defend. For nearly 2 decades, he was the gold standard for tight ends. Despite his individual greatness, team success eluded him. Gonzalez spent 12 years with the Chiefs, where he often put up incredible numbers, but was surrounded by mediocre rosters. In Kansas City, he played in only 3 playoff games, losing all of them. After being traded to the Atlanta Falcons in 2009, he finally experienced more postseason success, making the NFC Championship game in 2012. That was the closest he came to a Super Bowl, as the Falcons fell to the 49ers after squandering a second-half lead. Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history, yet like Tony Gonzalez, he never managed to win a Super Bowl. What makes Gates' story even more remarkable is that he never played a single snap of college football. Instead, he was a basketball star at Kent State, leading the Golden Flashes to the Elite Eight of the 2002 NCAA tournament. After graduation, NFL scouts saw his size, athleticism, and leaping ability, and envisioned him as a tight end. The San Diego Chargers signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2003, and it became one of the greatest finds in league history. Gates immediately proved he belonged. By his second season, he was a star, catching 81 passes for 964 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2004. He was named a first-team All-Pro that year and became a central weapon for quarterback Phillip Rivers throughout the 2000s. Gates finished his career with 955 receptions, 11,841 yards, and 116 touchdowns, the most touchdown catches ever by a tight end. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and one of the most consistent red zone threats the league had ever seen. His basketball background showed up in his game. He used his body to box out defenders the way he once did under the rim, and his footwork and hands were elite. Despite all the success, team accomplishments never followed. Gates and the Chargers had loaded rosters featuring Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, and they reached the AFC Championship in 2007, but they fell short against the New England Patriots. That was the closest Gates ever got to the Super Bowl. Anthony Munoz. When it comes to offensive linemen, Anthony Munoz is often cited as the greatest to ever play the position. Drafted 3rd overall in 1980 by the Cincinnati Bengals, Munoz anchored their offensive line for 13 seasons, becoming the gold standard for left tackles. His blend of size, strength, footwork, and technique was decades ahead of his time, and he protected quarterbacks' blind sides better than anyone in the league. Munoz's accolades are staggering. He was named to 11 Pro Bowls and earned 9 first-team All-Pro selections. He was also a member of the NFL's 75th anniversary team, 100th anniversary team, and the 1980s All-Decade team. In 1998, he became the first Bengal inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Simply put, he was the prototype for the modern offensive tackle. His career also included rare versatility. Despite being a lineman, Munoz was athletic enough to catch touchdown passes on tackle-eligible plays, finishing with 4 career receiving touchdowns. That unique combination of power and athleticism made him one of the most complete players in NFL history. But as great as Munoz was, team success eluded him. The Bengals reached the Super Bowl twice during his career, Super Bowl 16, 1982, and Super Bowl 23, 1989, but lost both times to the San Francisco 49ers. In Super Bowl 23, Cincinnati was heartbreakingly close, only for Joe Montana to lead a game-winning drive in the final minutes. Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith is the NFL's all-time sack leader and one of the most feared defensive players to ever step on the field. Drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills in 1985, Smith quickly became the cornerstone of their defense and went on to dominate for nearly 2 decades. Standing 6 feet 4 inches and 265 pounds, Smith combined speed, power, and technique in a way few pass rushers ever have. Across 19 seasons with the Bills in Washington, he racked up an incredible 200 career sacks, a record that still stands. He was a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks, routinely blowing past blockers and wrecking game plans. His resume is loaded with accolades: 11 Pro Bowls, 8 first-team All-Pro selections, 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and a spot on the NFL's 100th anniversary team. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2009, universally recognized as one of the greatest defensive ends in history. But for all of his individual dominance, Smith never won a Super Bowl. He was the defensive leader of the Buffalo Bills during their historic run of 4 straight Super Bowl appearances from 1990 to 1993, but each ended in heartbreak. Alan Page. Alan Page is one of the most dominant defensive linemen in NFL history, a player whose impact went far beyond sacks and tackles. Drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the first round of the 1967 NFL Draft, Page became the cornerstone of the team's legendary Purple People Eaters defensive line alongside Carl Eller, Jim Marshall, and Gary Larson. Page's quickness and strength were revolutionary for his era. While most defensive tackles of the time were primarily space eaters, Page was explosive off the snap, penetrating the line of scrimmage and wreaking havoc in the backfield. Over his 15-year career, he was named to 9 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pro selections, and became the first defensive player to win the NFL MVP award in 1971. He was also a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year and was named to the NFL's 100th anniversary team. Despite all of his dominance, Page never won a Super Bowl. The Vikings reached the big game 4 times during the 1970s, Super Bowls 4, 8, 9, and 11, but lost each one. Whether it was the Chiefs, Dolphins, Steelers, or Raiders, Minnesota could never get over the hump. Page was a force in every game, but he walked away without a championship. After his playing days, Page's legacy only grew. He earned a law degree and became an associate justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, showing that his brilliance extended far beyond the football field. His career is remembered as one of excellence, leadership, and impact. Even without a ring, Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas was one of the most feared pass rushers of his generation, a relentless edge presence who terrorized quarterbacks throughout the 1990s. Drafted 4th overall by the Kansas City Chiefs in 1989, Thomas immediately made an impact, winning Defensive Rookie of the Year and setting the tone for what would become a Hall of Fame career. Blessed with an explosive first step and an endless motor, Thomas piled up sacks at a remarkable pace. Over 11 seasons, he recorded 126.5 career sacks, still the franchise record for Kansas City. He made the Pro Bowl 9 times, was a first-team All-Pro selection twice, and in 1990, he set the still-standing NFL single-game record with 7 sacks against the Seattle Seahawks. Thomas wasn't just a sack artist, though. He forced fumbles, disrupted blocking schemes, and struck fear into offensive coordinators every week. He was the heart and soul of the Chiefs' defense for over a decade, leading them to consistent playoff appearances in the 1990s. Yet despite his individual brilliance, Thomas never won a Super Bowl. The Chiefs made the postseason in 7 of his 11 years, but they never advanced past the AFC Championship game. He came close in 1993, when Kansas City fell to the Buffalo Bills one step short of the big game. Tragically, Thomas's life and career were cut short in 2000, when he died at just 33 years old following a car accident. His passing left the NFL world stunned, as he was still one of the league's premier defensive players. J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is one of the most dominant defensive players of the modern NFL era, and his resume stacks up with the greatest defenders of all time. Yet, he never managed to win a Super Bowl. Drafted 11th overall by the Houston Texans in the 2011 NFL Draft, Watt quickly developed into a force of nature at defensive end. From 2012 to 2015, Watt put together one of the most dominant 4-year stretches in league history. He won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, 2012, 2014, 2015, joining only Lawrence Taylor and Aaron Donald in that elite category. In 2014, he recorded 20.5 sacks, 29 tackles for loss, and 5 total touchdowns, including 3 on offense, putting together one of the most remarkable all-around seasons the NFL had ever seen. Watt was nearly unblockable, combining size, strength, and relentless effort with incredible athleticism for a 6'5", 290-pound lineman. Watt finished his career with 114.5 sacks, 195 tackles for loss, and 27 forced fumbles, along with 5 Pro Bowl selections and 5 first-team All-Pro honors. He was named to the 2010s All-Decade Team and will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. But for all his individual brilliance, Watt never played in a Super Bowl. The Texans made the playoffs several times during his career, but they could never get past the divisional round. Injuries and inconsistent quarterback play often kept Houston from becoming a serious contender, and Watt's prime years were spent carrying a franchise that never had enough around him. Junior Seau. Junior Seau was the heart and soul of the San Diego Chargers for nearly 2 decades, and one of the most respected linebackers the NFL has ever seen. Drafted 5th overall in 1990 out of USC, Seau immediately became the emotional leader of the Chargers' defense, known for his relentless energy, sideline-to-sideline speed, and bone-jarring hits. Seau was the definition of durability and excellence. Over 20 seasons with the Chargers, Dolphins, and Patriots, he earned 12 Pro Bowl selections, 6 first-team All-Pro honors, and a spot on the 1990s All-Decade Team. His leadership was as valuable as his production. Teammates often described him as the heartbeat of any locker room he was in. The peak of his team's success came in the 1994 season, when Seau led the Chargers to their first and only Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. In Super Bowl 29, however, San Diego was overpowered by Steve Young and the San Francisco 49ers, losing 49-26. Despite Seau's best efforts, that game would be his only Super Bowl appearance. Later in his career, he joined the 2007 New England Patriots, who went 18-0 into Super Bowl 42, only to fall in one of the biggest upsets in NFL history to the New York Giants. Individually, Seau's resume was beyond reproach: 1,849 tackles, 56.5 sacks, and 18 interceptions across 2 decades. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2015, remembered not only as one of the greatest linebackers of all time, but also as one of the most beloved and respected leaders the NFL has ever had. Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis is remembered as one of the most dominant linebackers of his generation, a player who defined the San Francisco 49ers defense during their return to prominence in the early 2000s. Drafted 11th overall in the 2007 NFL Draft, Willis wasted no time making an impact. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year and quickly became known for his combination of speed, strength, and instincts. Over his 8-year career, Willis earned 7 Pro Bowl selections, 5 first-team All-Pro honors, and a spot on the NFL's 2010s All-Decade team. At middle linebacker, he was the complete package. He could stuff the run, blanket tight ends in coverage, and deliver bone-rattling hits. Alongside Navarro Bowman, he formed one of the most feared linebacker duos in the league. The pinnacle of his team's success came in the 2012 season, when the 49ers advanced to Super Bowl 47 under head coach Jim Harbaugh. Willis and the defense led a furious comeback after falling behind 28-6, but in the end, San Francisco came up just short, losing 34-31 to the Baltimore Ravens. 2 years later, Willis and the 49ers were back in the NFC Championship, but again fell short of the Super Bowl, this time to the Seattle Seahawks. Injuries cut his career short, and Willis retired after just 8 seasons in 2014. Despite the brevity of his career, his impact was enormous. A player who, during his prime, was arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. His dominance earned him induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2024. Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher was the heart and soul of the Chicago Bears defense in the 2000s, a player who embodied toughness, athleticism, and leadership at the linebacker position. Drafted 9th overall in the 2000 NFL Draft out of New Mexico, Urlacher quickly made his presence felt, winning Defensive Rookie of the Year and becoming the face of the franchise. At 6 feet 4 inches and 250 pounds, Urlacher had rare speed for his size. He could drop into coverage like a safety, fly sideline to sideline against the run, and deliver crushing hits over the middle. Over his 13-year career, he recorded over 1,300 tackles, 41.5 sacks, and 22 interceptions. He earned 8 Pro Bowl selections, 4 first-team All-Pro honors, and was named the 2005 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He was also selected to the NFL's 2000s All-Decade team, and later enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018. The peak of Urlacher's team success came in the 2006 season, when he led the Bears to Super Bowl 41 against Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. The game started perfectly. Devin Hester returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, but Chicago's offense struggled mightily, and Urlacher and the defense couldn't contain Manning forever. The Bears lost 29-17, leaving Urlacher without the championship that would have capped his legacy. Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey is widely considered one of the greatest cornerbacks in NFL history, a player who combined elite athleticism, intelligence, and consistency over a 15-year career. Drafted 7th overall by Washington in 1999, Bailey quickly became a lockdown defender, earning Pro Bowl honors in just his 2nd season. In 2004, he was traded to the Denver Broncos, and that's where his career truly flourished. Bailey went on to become a cornerstone of Denver's defense for a decade, earning a remarkable 12 Pro Bowl selections, the most ever for a cornerback, and 3 first-team All-Pro honors. His coverage skills, ball hawking ability, and knack for shutting down opposing number 1 receivers made him one of the most respected defensive backs of all time. One of Bailey's most famous plays came in the 2005 playoffs when he intercepted Tom Brady in the end zone and returned it 100 yards, flipping the game's momentum. It remains one of the signature moments of his career and a perfect example of his ability to change a game in an instant. Despite his individual greatness, Bailey never won a Super Bowl. His closest chance came in the 2013 season when he was part of the Broncos team that reached Super Bowl 48. However, Denver was overpowered by the Seattle Seahawks' Legion of Boom, losing 43-8 in one of the most lopsided Super Bowls ever. Bailey retired in 2014 with 52 interceptions, 203 pass deflections, and a reputation as one of the purest cover corners the game has ever seen. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019, a first-ballot selection that cemented his place among the legends of the game. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Thanks for watching.